So, we choose our Supreme Court justices for life terms on good behavior. They can be impeached, which is nice. You know, no one should really be exempt from the possibility of impeachment. They're on life terms. They're not judged with action. This is kind of the idea. The idea of a life term is you're not thinking about the politics of the moment. You're thinking the ultimate long term. You're thinking about just, how to serve the country by making the right decisions. Now, you could say, well, why don't we apply this to everybody else? That's a good point. We definitely wouldn't want the president to have a life term. Why not? Well, because you could become like a dictator, and the Supreme Court doesn't have quite that power. It can't really order things. It's kind of weird. The Supreme Court doesn't have an army. It can't actually enforce anything. So maybe that's part of what makes it so nice. If it is as nice as I've claimed, maybe I'm wrong on that. Something like that. As is, they're appointed by the president, approved by the Senate. Maybe we should elect Supreme Court justices. And maybe we should keep them for life terms nonetheless. Or how about this? How about a one-time 50-year term? And if you die, or you resign, or you're impeached, or you lose that term for whatever reason, you can't get it back. You can't serve 30 years, quit, and then serve the other 20. So there's no thought of re-election. There's 50 years. I'm mainly throwing in the 50-year limit instead of life term limit because with advancing technology, it is possible that human lifespans will dramatically increase. In which case, we could have people serving for 200 years. I mean, who knows? That wouldn't be good. All sorts of things. How to vote. There's other voting methods too. There's the choose the one person who's best. And there's the choose the list of people, so you can have an instant runoff count. Sometimes there's several rounds of voting that starts eliminating, which is like a non-instant runoff, essentially. Sometimes there's choose between these two people, and then they give you every possible combination of two people versus each other. And then they run each of the elections of one-on-one all against each other and run it through some sort of matrix and figure out who won overall or something. But I think one of the very important deals of a voting system is that the public has to understand it. Have to know what on earth we're doing here. It's pretty simple to just say, okay, this person, that's my vote. And the instant runoff works pretty well because if that's as far as you go, you're still okay. Though if you want to go further, it actually still makes sense. There are other things where you rank people just on a scale of 1 to 10 of how much you like this person. It's something you could feasibly do, Then again, that kind of goes into, well, how is everyone on the same scale here of 1 to 10? Because, some people will, be reasonable. Okay, I'll rate this guy a 7 or whatever. He should be president, but I'm not enthusiastic. And other people will be like, I'm actually not enthusiastic about this guy, but he's better than the alternative, so I have to make sure that he wins, so I'll vote him a 10. Where 10 is the best, that is. And then we have that problem. You find this on all sorts of online mini voting things, say a video on Newgrounds or whatever. And it's vote this, from 0 to 5 stars or something. And a whole lot of people will just look at the current average and then vote either 0 or 5 in order to have the most effect on moving that average here or there. While some other people are voting, reasonable 3s and 4s maybe, and they're not getting counted as much despite being the same, one person, one vote and all that. Well, that's complicated. Another system has, you have a certain number of points to dish out. You have 100 points, split this amongst all the candidates. But then that penalizes people who generally like many candidates, and thus split their points among, 3 different people. And it gives the most power, essentially, to the people who just choose one guy and give him all the points, even if, again, they don't necessarily think like that, but they're voting like that just to make it happen. That gets kind of weird. So I mentioned the European Union. All of this could apply to that, by the way. But I was thinking about how that might structure the thing. As is, it's a little complicated. There are like a couple different trees. There's like the European Union versus like the European Community, which is like a legal entity, but this one's not, and this one, and then there's how exactly it passes. I don't know. Law. They don't have laws. They have regulations, which is very similar but a different word. So there's one thing for it. Maybe you could actually call them laws. It's actually not important, so I wouldn't bother with it. But how do you structure this new government for a bunch of independent states? Well, actually, you can look back to America, because that's what we did, isn't it? To all the European Union people that are afraid of losing sovereignty to this centralized government idea, it's not really like the EU is not really a state of its own yet, but it's kind of moving in that direction. People are thinking about it. If anyone afraid of that, I do know that that's kind of what America did. We were 13 independent colonies, technically. We were part of Britain, and then we broke off, and then we became 13 independent colonies, and we had this confederacy thing for a little while, and that totally didn't work. And then we ceded our sovereignty to a new federal government. And that actually worked out okay. I mean, the federal government has been corrupt at times, sure, but so have the state governments, so it's not much worse. Maybe even better. Certainly, actually, it worked out better than the Confederacy, functionally speaking. So back to the European Union. So how do you have a bunch of independent states gonna come together and pass laws? What would be a system of that? They have weird things where it's like, okay, this needs to pass at least 55% of the states, representing in total 65% of the population. Can we just do majorities? Can we? I don't know. Something in there. And I thought, so maybe if we did, just because I'm American, I always think in American terms of this. What if we had an American-style system? We had 2 houses of Congress, or whatever you want to call it, and then an executive. And I thought, then you'd have an executive who's in charge of 500 million European Union-ers, or whatever we want to call them. And I thought, that's really interesting. I mean, as it is, there's the American president who's got some power over 300 million Americans, but if we went for a broader base, what if we have the Executive Council? I thought. Very interesting. Say there's 5 people in there. You can call them the Council of 5. Okay? And then, for anything to happen, according to the power of the Council of 5, there has to be a vote of at least 3 of them. Okay, so then maybe you could pass laws, regulations, between your 2 houses, if we have houses, or maybe just one parliament thingy, I don't know. And they pass it, and then at least 3 of the, council members have to agree to it. And all 5 of them have to be informed of it. You can't really secretly passing laws the other ones don't know about. Well, that's interesting. So how do we elect these guys? Well, I probably want to do popular election, because people want to make sure that these people are, controlled by the people. So how do we do that? We have 5 guys. You could say we put each of these 5 guys on a, I don't know, you couldn't even have to do the number 5 though. You could do 3 or 7 or 5 seem nice, You could do 5 people each on, let's say, a 5-year term, and so then every year there's an election. These, guys, and you might say that's hard to set up. Then again, there's an election every year somewhere for some position anyway, so maybe not too hard. And then she said, okay, so once a year, somebody's up for re-election, and then someone else might take his spot. Thought that's interesting. But what if, instead of each year one of the 5 positions is up for election, all 5 of them are up for election, and all 5 are chosen at once? Okay, how do we choose all 5 at once? And then, well, you could do a choose 5 ballot, theoretically. You could do, you could do just voting. Just choose the classic, choose one guy, and the top 5 winners become the council members. You could.